All right, you guys, we're back and we're live. Welcome back to our daily live feed as you are logging on. If you would like to come work with me, suitsandposing.com is where you have to go. We do hair, makeup, suits and posing, all the fun stuff when it comes to competing. If you are logging on Instagram, we are also live over on YouTube and Facebook. If you don't know how to get to it, go to YouTube, search for Sean's Couture Cuties. Or if you're on Instagram, you can click on that drop down in the link tree and that will take you to it as well. So, welcome you guys. Say hello when you get logged on. And of course, subscribe to our channel, like, comment, share, all of the fun stuff. What's up? Also get onto our Spotify because next week we'll be at Tampa and we will be updating from there with Spotify. So check that out. Tonight is our prep update night. So we always give it a few minutes for people to get logged on, about 3 minutes-ish or so. What's up? What's up? Welcome. We got our QR code up here in the corner. So you can scan that. That'll take you over to our website. Let me do... If you want to go to our Spotify, there's our QR code for the Spotify. What's up, Kareem? Made it. So I'll leave the Spotify one up for tonight. But all this is in the description box too. You can click on any of those links in there. Spotify's on there, website's on there. Our Instagram, what I decided to do was just take down the videos that had restrictions on them. So hopefully that takes lifts the restrictions off the profile in general. It's just so random. It was like videos from Sundays with Sean and videos from Brandy's pro debut and stuff like that. So I don't know. I don't know what the rhyme or reason as to why Instagram decided to flag those, but they did. So as we're getting into tonight's topic, our Thursday nights, the replays are great. The replays are cardio theater, right? So tonight's topic on Thursdays, what we do when I go live is we talk about prep. We talk about off season. We talk about training, nutrition, presentation, all of those things. The way this began was I was doing kind of like a little vlog series, and I felt like it was kind of boring. So I started coming on live and doing it with you all instead, and kind of updating where I was with my prep, and at the same time, getting you guys to ask your questions. This is your opportunity to ask any questions that you may have. We do have coaches that come on here and that will offer up some answers for you. I always say, listen, I'm not a coach. I do posing, but that's it. I don't do training and diet. However, I have been in the bodybuilding industry for 13 years. I've been in the fitness industry since I was 19. So I have the background. My first job, real job, like outside like babysitting and stuff like that, was I used to work in a gym. I was a lifeguard at a gym. I was front desk at a gym. I even was a manager of a gym prior to starting Sean's Couture Cuties. So when I quit my job as manager of the gym, I went full time with my business here. So have a little bit of knowledge on the topic. I've been around it for just a little while, so when you guys have questions, feel free to kind of type them in. And like I said, the coaches and stuff that are on here while we're here too can answer your questions as well. So tonight, what I wanted to talk about was the title of this is the Don't Forget That One Important Thing. So what that one important thing is your improvements. I made a post about this on my personal page today and just kind of showed the difference between when I was 16 weeks out last year versus now that I'm 16 weeks out this year, what my body looks like in comparison. There's a lot of things on show day that we cannot control as competitors. We can't control the judging. We can't control the criteria that's picked that day. We can't control the competitors that show up. We can't control the number. We can't control the quality. We can't control any of those things. All we can do is we can control ourselves. So I think it's really important that throughout this journey, we take a minute to go back and look where we started versus where we are. That's really what bodybuilding is all about. Of course, We want to get on stage and we want to win. That's the goal, right? Nobody ever enters a show saying, I want to get last place. That's never something that we want to do, right? But, one thing that we notice as we go along is the criteria does evolve as well. Bikini in the pro league is not what Bikini was 4 or 5 years ago. I look back at what was being rewarded like during the Courtney King time and all that kind of time frame. It's not even close to what's being rewarded today, right? I went pro in figure. There is no way on God's green earth I could be on the figure pro stage right now and be competitive. No way. And I carry more muscle now than I ever have my whole life. So you have to be really aware of not equating success with your stage placement, right? Which is hard because people don't understand it. Outside of this industry, people don't get it, right? They think you look amazing. They think when you show up on stage, you're going to win and you got robbed if you don't, and all of those kinds of things. You know what I mean? But what you have to remember is that you're only as good as you can be, right? If you're doing everything right, if you're progressing and you're getting better every time that you get on stage, you're winning. You're doing the right thing. You're moving in the right direction. And I really emphasize this because I think that sometimes I know I do this. We look at our pictures and we're like, oh, I wish I had this. Oh, I wish I had that. I wish I had this. I wish my waistline was smaller. I wish my glutes were bigger. I wish my shoulders were rounder. I do that. This morning, I caught myself doing that, right? I was taking my photos and I was like, man, my glutes look flat. That's the first thing I think of. Not, but my front pose looks amazing, because it does in comparison to where it was even just a few weeks ago. Or not that I've had another good drop in the body fat. Not that my measurements are going in the right direction. Not that my posing looks better. The first thing I thought was my glutes look flat. That's the first thing I thought. And I'm like, bro, what's wrong with you? Right? So, and the thing is they weren't even that flat. I mean, they are flat in the mornings. You got no food in you. You got no pump, none of that kind of stuff. So they're gonna be flat when you're fasted. It is what it is. But in comparison to the weeks prior, it's not like it was a big change. You know what I mean? I looked back at my photos from last week and I was like, oh, my glutes actually look pretty good. Never mind. So I really emphasize that you need to pay attention to your progression of your body, right? In a good way and in a bad way too. Very true. Is the old adage of it's you versus you during prep and while on stage. Absolutely, it is. So the flip side of that is if you're not making progress in the right direction, you need to be able to see that too. I know I've had an issue with that in the past. Comment in, tell me if you've had an issue with being able to see your body for what it really is. When I started competing, people didn't talk about reverse dieting. They didn't talk about taking breaks. They didn't talk about, taking time off, things like that. People just went show to show to show to show to show. It is what it is. Like when my second season, I think I did 8 shows or something like that, something ridiculous. And I started in March and I went all the way through till November or something like that. And I did like a show every month, my second year. It was stupid. I looked like shit by the time I got to November. I look at my pictures from nationals. I did nationals that year. And I'm like, man, I was a stick figure. I had nothing left. I was dieting so hard. And I was like, man, this was stupid. I'm like, why didn't somebody tell me? You know what I mean? Why didn't somebody tell me that I looked this bad? And I didn't realize it in the time. I didn't realize it till I was out of it. And once I got out of it, I was like, man, I really burned off every kind of inch of muscle that I had. Right? Anybody ever done that? Shawana says yes, she has. I know I have. I mean, I've done it. I did it even in the pro league. Once I got to the pro league, I was like, oh, I need to be better conditioned, so I'd get a little bit leaner. But in the process, I would also lose muscle, and I would look like a stick figure by the end. I mean, man, you got to be aware of it on both sides of that, right? So if you're not making improvements, it's important to get off stage too and make those improvements and stay off stage until you have, right? Be realistic with your goals. We've talked about this before. Like if you've been dieting for 6 months, you need to not diet for at least 6 months just to get back to kind of normal, right? Same almost like breaks and reverse diets didn't exist back then. They didn't. Nobody knew what breaks and reverse diets were. That wasn't a thing. These are like new terms that just happened in the last few years. They really are. Yes, I did 9 last year. Yeah, nine shows is a lot, you guys. That's a lot of shows. I'm like, I'm at the point now where I'm like, okay, 2 and I'm done. I'm good. You know, like I can't even imagine going for 9 shows again. Like, of course, I'm in my 40s now, so it's not like I'm 28 anymore. You know what I mean? It's different. So, but you know, I think a lot of people don't realize you need some time off in order to get better. You know, and it's not just a matter of taking, okay, I just competed in the spring into the summer, so I'm going to come back and compete in the spring and the summer again. No, you stay off stage until you're ready to get back on, right? Use myself as an example again. You know, I competed last year in May and in June, and initially thought that I was going to come back and compete at the beginning of the year this year, but my body wasn't ready. You know, I hadn't made improvements enough. I wasn't ready to prep. So here I am just starting my prep now into the summer so that I can get on stage in the late fall, winter, really. It's really winter, you know. So you have to be really aware, and that's why I say don't forget that one important thing, that you have to pay attention to your progress. You have to pay attention to, am I going in the right direction? Right? So somebody tell me what your triggers are, where you know if you're dieting too much, you know, if you're doing too much and you need to stop. What are some things that you look at? Like, what are some of your triggers that tell you, okay, I've pushed my body too hard? Somebody just type in some of your stuff. For me, it's brain power. That's a big one, where my lack of wanting to do anything is a big one. You know, not wanting to move, not wanting to work out, not wanting to do anything. I mean, I think you get like that a little bit anyway in the last couple of weeks, but it shouldn't be an ongoing thing, right? Like I'll say last year between New York and Dallas, the last thing that I wanted to do every day was, I did not want to do cardio. I fucking hated it. I didn't want to do it. And I said to my coach when we got done with this, the prep last year, I said, I want to be in a place next year when I do this that I don't have to go through this cardio anymore, because I don't want to do it. I fucking hate it. It makes me not want to do any of this just because of the cardio, right? Feeling weak and losing ambition. Yeah, the ambition thing is a big thing for me. Absolutely. Like just not wanting to do it anymore, right? So that was always a big trigger for me. And I realized, I was like, you know, even if I felt like for Dallas, you know, even if I felt like after that I could make improvements to my physique and I could keep going, I didn't want to. You know, I wanted to be off stage. I wanted to be in recovery. I wanted to be in off season, right? And I knew that was my trigger of, no, I'm done, right? Some other things, I mean, obviously you can see your physique kind of dwindle away. My glutes the first thing to go. So I'm always really hyper vigilant about my glutes. So when I start to see those glutes deflate, I'm like, nope, we're done. We're done. Right. So same, I get lethargic and I don't want to do anything. I also hit a plateau that's hard to push past, and it's harder to hit proper poses. Yeah. Posing is harder. You start feeling like every bone in your body is going to break just from posing, right? Like it gets to the point where you just don't, it just doesn't look healthy. Yep. I know for some people, like their skin will start to get really like sallow, you know, start losing hair, you know, things like that. If you're starting to see things like that, that's your body telling you you need to stop, you need to take a break, right? Not being able to handle stress, and everything seems stressful, even the simplest things. Yeah. Even the simplest things seem stressful, right? You can't make life miserable for everybody around you either, right? Everybody around you needs to be able to deal with you. I tell people all the time, like, this sport is supposed to be fun. You know, you're supposed to have a good time with it. And if you're not having fun anymore, it's time to reevaluate, right? And I think that things get hard, they get difficult, but that shouldn't change your whole outlook on everything, right? You should still be able to manage your attitude. You should still be able to manage your stress pretty well, you know, that kind of thing. Now, I'm not saying you don't have your moments, because we all have our moments, even when you're not in prep. You know what I mean? Even when you're not in prep, you're gonna have these moments where you're just like, nah, fuck it, I'm done. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. But you know when you're going past that limit, right? You know when you're going past that and you're just flipping on for no reason, right? When the prep brain starts interfering with my life as a mom and a business owner, then I know it's time. I forgot many appointments during one prep. Yeah, absolutely. When it starts affecting your livelihood, it's a problem. It's a problem. And I think that no matter how healthy you do a prep, no matter how well you do a prep, I think you get to that point at some point, for maybe even if it's just for a week or a few days or something like that. If you can come out of it and be all right, then cool, you can keep pushing. But if it's one of those things where you can't manage it anymore, then it's probably time to pull the plug. It's probably time to go back into an off season, right? Anything else? Anybody else have any triggers? I'll give it a minute. I know physique-wise too, it's like I start feeling like everything hurts. It's like every 2 days I'm getting an injury, or I just can't push hard in the gym anymore, or things like that. If I've gotten to that point, time to go in off season, right? It's time to go in off season. My body's not having it anymore. And as women, we got to be paying attention to this stuff because it hits us on our hormones, things like that, even more, right? And it becomes even harder to recover all of that. So just be aware of those things. Now, let's get back into the happiness, right? So if you do a decent prep, you've had a really good, productive improvement season, feeling empty, just pure exhaustion. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a trigger to be like, okay, this is over. We're done. Yep, absolutely. So let's say you hit that point. Now we're going into a recovery session, improvement season, that kind of thing. Have a really productive improvement season, and then you get back into prep again. Prep shouldn't be very difficult, right? Now, I say that with caveat of it's hard regardless. We know that. But it shouldn't be something where you're suffering every single day, right? If you've had a really good productive improvement season, as you go into prep, things should go pretty smoothly. Now, you're still going to hit bumps. It's not going to be perfect. I'm not saying any of those kinds of things, but you shouldn't feel any of these things that you guys all just mentioned. These things should not be a thing. Now, maybe they are once you get into the last couple of weeks. It's kind of normal, right? You should be suffering. I say like the last 3 weeks is when you really start to suffer. And if you're not suffering the last 3 weeks, you're probably not pushing hard enough, right? But then once you get past that, if you decide to keep going for another show, a lot of times that time frame when you go in between shows is the hardest. I know it was for me last year. I was talking to Brandy yesterday. It's been really hard for her. I know it's hard for a lot of people when you go in between a couple of shows. You just got a couple of weeks and you just got to make a few slight improvements, that kind of thing. It's really hard. So if you start feeling that and you get into the show and then you're like, okay, I just can't do this anymore. Time to push off. Or you might feel great. If you feel great and you've had a really good improvement season, your body is still responding, you're feeling good, you see your body improving even more, then keep pushing. Why not? Keep going. But just keep those in the back of your head, what the triggers are, right? So let's get back to where we are today. So I checked in today with my coach and had another decent drop in weight. Definitely leaned out from last week. This past week, I had my monthly visitor, Aunt Flo, and so when I did my check-in last week, I was on my period at that time, and I still had dropped weight from the week before, so I was still making some good progress. I made more progress this week. I think a lot of that had to do with being at Masters Nationals and walking everywhere. So for you guys, like, I know when you're competing in Masters Nationals, you typically don't do that, but I walked everywhere. I walked back and forth from both host hotels. I walked to the gym, every day. So my steps were way, way up in comparison to what they normally are. So I actually didn't do a lot of cardio those days because I was walking so much and I was getting it in anyway. When I came out of that weekend on Sunday, I had actually dropped 2 pounds. From Thursday, I dropped 2 pounds, but then I leveled back out once I got home and got the nutrition back in and all that kind of stuff. Now I didn't do too bad with my nutrition at Masters. Actually, one day I missed my protein goal by quite a bit, by like 60 something grams. I missed my protein goal because I fell asleep. I just passed out. I was like, oh, well, it is what it is. I needed to sleep more. So anyway, so I got into this week. Training was good all week long. That's something I've been really good about across the board, is really planning my training. Guys, how many of you guys have to really plan your training? How many of you guys have to really plan around your schedule for your training? If you're not doing that, start. It makes such a big difference in your results. I'm telling you, such a huge difference. So let me tell you a few of the things that I do, right? I have one rest day a week. So I train 6 days a week. So I do cardio 6 days a week. I plan my rest day based on my work schedule. Okay. So this past week, I'm trying to think, when did I take? Oh, I took a rest this past week on Wednesday. So my check-in days are Thursday. So I took my rest day yesterday. And the reason why I did that, so I trained all the way through the whole Masters Nationals weekend. I didn't take a day off. I didn't stop. I did my cardio. I did all of that. The reason why I did that was because I knew I was going to the doctor to get my Botox touched up. So I knew that I wasn't going to be able to train on Wednesday because I was getting Botox done at 9:00 in the morning. So I planned all of my training around my Botox. How many of you guys have done that? I have not done that in the past. And I get so mad at myself because I'm like, man, I knew I was going in to do this and I didn't plan my rest day properly. And now I'm going to have 2 rest days. When you're in prep, you can't do that. When you're in prep, you cannot do that. You can't do a rest day. So if I had screwed that up, I would have gotten up early in the morning and trained. I hate training early in the morning, by the way. Absolutely hate it. So I would much rather train at night than in the morning. I need food in my system. I need caffeine in my system. I can't get up and go train. I know some people love training in the morning. I can't. Type into the comments if you're a morning trainer, afternoon trainer, evening trainer. Tell me what your thing is. My personal best as far as training is concerned is about 1:00 in the afternoon. So what I do as my normal training is I get up, I have my coffee, my breakfast, all that kind of stuff. Start on emails, social media, catching up, get work done at the house, pack together whatever it is that I need to pack for that day. I go see my seamstress a couple of times a week, that kind of thing. So I usually get orders put together for her. So I get all of that stuff done in the morning. And then I go to the gym. And then I come home and I have clients. And then I do live feeds with you guys. And then my day's over. So that's typically how I do. Afternoon, evening, afternoon, morning for sure. Oh, I'm not a morning person. Morning. My favorite is 11 a.m. 11 a.m. is good too. I could do 11. If I was to get up earlier in the morning, then I would do 11, but I don't. I get up 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, that kind of thing. So I have a couple meals in me. I have 2 meals in me by the time I go train. So yeah, usually I'm getting to the gym around 1. But it's the earliest I get to the gym usually is noon. And then the latest is usually around 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. If I'm traveling or something, I typically wait to do my training till I get to wherever it is I'm going, because that gets the blood flow going and all those kinds of things. So sometimes I do train in the evening. Like when I was in Pittsburgh, I did that. But I would prefer that versus morning. So that's me. I'd rather go at night. So yeah, so I plan everything. I plan my training around everything so that it doesn't get missed, right? So I didn't miss anything this past week, even though it was a long show weekend. I didn't miss anything. What I did miss was sleep. I didn't sleep well. And like I said, the protein the one day. But with that said, with my work schedule, it's either get to work, eat breakfast and the gym, or I go during my lunch break and then I eat after. There you go. Yeah. If I was you, I would go during lunch break. That's what I would do. I'm a lunch person for sure. Afternoon person for sure. Because the other part of that too, for me, is like my brain power dips a little bit when I get towards, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, that kind of thing. So for me, what I find is that when I take that time to go train, then when I come back, my brain's back and ready to go again. So I have, they always talk about the 2 o'clock crash kind of thing. So that's kind of how I am. I have my best brain power first thing in the morning. So that's when I use it for all of my business stuff. And then when I start to feel like I'm dipping, that's when I go to the gym, and then I can kind of boost it back up and get back into my clients and stuff in the afternoon. So it works out well that way. I train at 5 and I can't do the training at 5. I don't know how you do that. Cannot do it. cannot do it. That's not me at all. I would much rather sleep. So anyways, so I got everything done. Whoa. My whole computer just kind of blacked out on me for a second. Sorry if I lost you guys for a second there. So I do that. Then let's see where I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, so I got all my training in, everything like that this week. Checked in this morning. Dropped in weight about 1.5 pounds. So I'm in a really good pace right now as far as prep is concerned. At this point, I would be 16 weeks out from Hawaii, and I probably need to come down about 13 pounds. So, give or take, that kind of thing. So I'm in a really good spot right now as far as that's concerned. So I'm happy about that. I feel like my shape is looking good. I feel like I'm leaning out nicely, and I feel like I'm retaining muscle pretty well. So as far as changes this week with macros and cardio and stuff, none. We're keeping it steady. So I'm at 25 minutes of cardio a day, which just missed training. So I'm usually on the elliptical. We talked about this, I think, last week or the week before. I do my cardio on the elliptical. And then, again, training 6 days a week. And then my calories are all the same. So I'm up in the 2,300 calorie range, and carb cycling. So I'm in a pretty good spot for 16 weeks out, I think. Anytime I talk to people, they're like, "Oh, you're already lean." I'm like, "Nah." I have a good body composition right now, but I still gotta drop quite a bit of body fat. I've got about 13 pounds to go. So maybe a little bit more. We'll see. I want my conditioning to be better this year. So what do you guys think is a good pace for fat loss? I see Jared's on here. So Jared, what do you think is a good, and any other coaches too, trainers too? I just see Jared. What is a good pace to drop weight or body fat each week? What is a good pace in your opinions? All you guys can answer. Specifically talking about those who have coached others, what do you find to be a good pace for weight fat loss through a prep? And I know we're on a little bit of a delay, so I'll wait. Tell you what, I'm getting lean because I can see my freaking vein popping. I asked about that when I went to get Botox. I was like, can we do anything about this? So they can put filler in there. So the leaner I get, the more my veins pop. I like to have athletes at about 1 to 1.5 pound loss in the beginning. Okay, so that's in the beginning. What do you consider to be the beginning? And then where does it go from there? What's the time frame for beginning of prep? And then once you're through the beginning, how many more weeks are left? I'm also a fan of longer preps, so we have enough time with stalls or plateaus. Yep. I'm a fan of longer preps too. Plus, longer preps are usually easier on the body, so you don't have to crash so hard either. I would agree with that. Okay, so the last 6 to 8 weeks. So you're saying the first 6 to 8 weeks, you're looking at 1 to 1.5 pounds a week. Okay. So what do you expect in the last 6 to 8 weeks? If it was, and again, this is ideal. I mean, obviously, there's gonna be differences depending on the person and all those kind of things, but this is just an ideal situation. And Jared says, well, definitely depends on weeks versus amount needs to be lost. So if in off season can stay in a range where you can kind of do math estimates to stay in a healthy place. Yeah. So let's say an ideal situation. Let's say somebody did an ideal improvement season. They stayed in a good body composition, and 2 pounds a week. Okay. I think that's, for me, I think that 2 pounds is a little aggressive. I think that even 1.5 pounds is a little aggressive. So in general, I was waiting for a couple other answers to come in, but in general, I think that a pound a week is about right on average. I mean, obviously there's going to be some weeks where you drop more and some weeks where you drop less. Yeah, the high end one is definitely, yeah. I think a pound a week is the gold standard. You know, I mean, like I said, there's going to be fluctuations and it's not going to always work like that. But in general, you should consider a pound a week to come down, because if you're doing that pace, you're probably going to minimize the amount of muscle that you're going to lose. You're going to lose mostly fat and you're going to minimize the muscle. So if you're staying in a good range of your stage weight, then you should be able to do that, right? Agreed, last few weeks, I'm happy to see a pound off. Okay. Yep. Yeah. And I think that most people would agree with that a pound a week is about right. So think about that, guys, when you go into a prep, right? Let's say you come off stage and you were in a good shape on stage. You didn't really need to lose more weight. You didn't need to any of those kinds of things, right? You just need to make some improvements. Well, if you go into your improvement season and you gain 20 pounds, you're going to need to take those 20 pounds off again. And if you're doing a pound a week, that means a 20-week prep, right? Which is not outside of the ordinary. A lot of people do that, right? I went up almost that amount. I would say, let's see, so the highest I got was about 17, 18 pounds over my stage weight, right? And I'm 5'9", so I'm a big girl, so that's kind of normal. And that's why we started prep so soon, so early. Now I'm dropping at a good pace. I'm going at a nice even pace at this point. Hoping it stays that way, because if it does, then I will be ready a few weeks ahead of time. Personally, so the show that I'm shooting for is 2 weeks after the Olympia. So personally, I would like to be ready by the Olympia, because I know I'll see my coach in person at that point. I don't know if she's going to be at my shows or not, but I know I'll see my coach in person at the Olympia, and I'll know if I need to make more adjustments, right? So ideally, I would like to be ready then. So those are things that I always keep in the back of my head. Like, initially I was like, oh, I got a long time till November. It's a ways out. We're good. Blah, blah, blah. No. Like 16 weeks goes by fast, you guys. It goes by really, really quick. So that's where we're at right now, 16 weeks. For those of you that are planning on doing Ben Meter, you're 16 weeks out. You're 16 weeks out right now. So I know a lot of people start their preps at 16 weeks out. I think people still think that 12 is kind of the gold standard, but I don't think it is anymore. I think most people start ahead of time. I think most people start longer than 12. I think that 16 to 20 is really good, actually, because again, you can go nice and easy, nice and slow. You can make sure that you minimize your muscle loss and maximize your fat loss, right? And just take it step by step. So these are things to be calculating in your head when you're planning, you guys, right? Because here's the thing. Can you cut faster than that? Sure. You can cut faster than that. What are you going to do? You're going to cut off all the muscle you just built. You're going to cut off the improvements that you just took a year making. And especially as a female, it's very, very hard to put on and keep muscle when you diet. Very hard to do. Like, the stars need to align across the board, right? So and that's the other thing too. Just because it worked for you for 12 weeks the last time doesn't mean it's going to work in 12 weeks this time. Give yourself more time versus less, right? Be ready ahead of time versus trying to play catch up, right? I felt like I was playing catch up last year, right? Especially us natural girls. Yeah. And here's the thing. So if you're not using enhancements and things like that, you're more susceptible to losing muscle. It's harder to put on muscle. Just in general, as a female, it's hard to put muscle on, period. Even if you are on enhancements, it's hard to put on muscle in comparison to what guys can do. It's hard. A lot of women think that just because they're off stage and they're gaining weight, that weight gain is muscle. Most of it is fat, you guys. Hate to break it to you, but most of it is fat when you put on weight, right? Which isn't bad. We need it for hormones. We need it for hormonal health. We need it for all of that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? But if the stars align and everything is perfect, you might be able to put on like a half a pound of muscle a month that's going to stick, right? Like you get newbie gains and things like that. But as you go along, you become more of an advanced lifter. It's harder and harder to put that muscle on. And then it's harder and harder to keep it when you diet, right? But if you need to gain muscle in the improvement season, is the goal to still be around stage weight at the time of competition? So I don't quite understand that wording of that question. Is the goal to still be around stage weight at the time of competition? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Could you reword that question? If you need to gain muscle in the improvement season, when you go to get on stage, your stage weight should be probably a little bit higher. But by a little bit, I mean like maybe a pound, maybe. A lot of women vastly overestimate the amount of weight that they're going to put on when they put muscle on, right? That's what I'm just mentioning about this. So if you're lucky and everything goes perfectly, you might be able to hold on to a half a pound of muscle per month that you've been really building muscle. And this is if you're doing everything right, training hard, eating right, all of those kinds of things, and then peeling it off. A lot of people think, oh, we just put on a pound of muscle a month. No, it doesn't work like that. Does not work like that. Because you have to remember, yeah, you might put on a pound of muscle that 1 month, but then you go to diet it and you're going to diet off some of that muscle with the fat. So you're lucky you're lucky if you retain a half a pound of muscle. So, and then when you get the conditioning in there and all those kinds of things, I mean, you really don't end up weighing that much more. I'll use myself as an example. When I won my pro card, I was 137 pounds, which was one of my better looks on stage. My best looks on stage have been about 137, 138, that kind of thing. That's the most amount of muscle with the best kind of conditioning. If I'm higher than that, I'm not in shape. If I'm higher than 140, or if I'm at 140 or something like that, I need to cut more fat off, right? The struggle that I had last year was that I felt like I didn't have enough muscle in order to get the conditioning that I needed. So I could have gotten leaner, but if I had done that, I would have sacrificed more muscle and I would have sacrificed shape. So my conditioning could absolutely have been better, but at the same time, I think I would have come out of it looking worse because I wanted that fullness and roundness. And the only way to keep that was to keep some body fat on me. I didn't have the muscle to fill it out. So this year, the goal is that I hope I have the muscle to fill it out so that I can still come in at about 137, 138, maybe a little bit higher, maybe, and be better conditioned. I think I'll probably still land somewhere between the 138 to 139-ish range, but just be conditioned better because I have more muscle. That's what I think. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. You answered my question. I just wanted to know how much muscle in pounds are you expected to gain at the end of the prep? Granted, you had a good improvement season. Yeah, and everybody's going to be different. So there's no like, if you stay off season for 10 months, you're going to gain 10 pounds of muscle. No, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. Again, and if everything's perfect and you've done everything exactly correct, you'll be lucky if you retain a half a pound of muscle for every month that you are in a true improvement off season. If you're lucky. Most people won't. And again, that goes back to a true improvement season, like everything was perfect as well, right? So like what I always say too is that, again, if you've dieted let's say you dieted for 4 months for a show, well, then you need another 4 months just to get back to where you were. And then you need another 4 months just on top of that to make improvements. And then you need another 4 months to diet again, right? So it's like this whole circle. But what happens to most people is they'll diet for 4 months, then they'll go off season for 4 months and say, oh, I need to diet again. And they'll diet again and they'll come right back to where they were. As I'm saying, off seasons, improvement seasons need to be taken seriously, and you need every single freaking day that you can get out of that improvement season if you want to come back looking better. And it only gets harder as we get older. It only gets harder as we get older. It doesn't get easier because our hormones don't like to play with us anymore. They say, screw you. So, with that, I'm going to start wrapping this up for this evening. But any other questions that have kind of popped up along the way for you guys? I always like to leave these ones open for a couple extra minutes. So if you have anything about your prep, your off season, your presentation, anything like that you want to kind of throw out there, just get an answer from those of us that are here on live, feel free, throw it in there. Okay. Maybe it's something having to do with your posing or practice or mobility or anything. It can be anything. It doesn't have to be training and diet related. It can be anything. Go ahead and throw it out. So with that, we are getting very, very close to launching Cuties Conquering the Stage for 2024 soon. And let me tell you guys, we are going to have some of the best topics we've ever had. I know I say that every year, but I'm right every year. We get better every year. Just wait. A lot of the stuff that you guys like, the burning questions that you all have that you come to me for answers for, we're going to have those topics covered by experts this year. And I cannot wait for you to see the lineup. It's going to be amazing. You need to be there. I'm just saying. It's a fantastic, fun weekend. Don't get me wrong. We have a ton of fun, but we learn a lot too. And it's not just about stage stuff. It's about everything else having to do with being a female in general, right? So waiting for the Valentine's Day, February CCTS, right? Yeah, Valentine's Day. All the cutie love, right? All the cutie love. Yeah. This is so true. I've been out of it for a long time now, and as excited as I am to train again and how I'm looking, I know I lost a lot of size and muscle over the 2 years having to stay patient. Yeah. Kelby, your shape looks fantastic. As much as I'm itching, I know I need to put some size back on. And that's the thing. I'm like, your shape looks great. And even with you being out for being injured and going through surgeries and all those kinds of things, I mean, you still look really, really good. But yeah, I mean, as far as filling out the density and things like that, that takes time. You've got the shape, you just got to fill it out. Same thing with me. I got to fill that density out. I'm hoping I did. We'll see. We'll find out in a few months if I did or not. We'll see. But it's hard because you start itching to want to see what you've done. But at the same time, muscle just takes a long time to grow. It just takes a long time to grow. Right? So, this weekend we are at Clash of the Titans here in Virginia. Next week, we will be in Tampa from Wednesday on. So I've already got a bunch of you girls that are going to come and do posing sessions with me while I'm down there. If any of you want to book posing while I'm in Tampa, hit me up. Whenever I'm at shows, you can do that. I got Nashville after that. If you want to book posing while I'm in Nashville, you can do that too. Okay. So go ahead, shoot me a quick message. Say, hey, I want to book a posing session with you while you're in town. I'm going to be there. Let's figure it out. Right. So you can absolutely do that. If you're competing in Tampa, or if you're just doing a photo shoot or something like that too, I do photo shoot makeup as well. So I've got hair and makeup slots available. I'll be there for the Masters Pros all the way through the Open. So I've got spots available for that. Same thing when we go to Nashville. Those are the next 2 shows on the list after this weekend. We have a Sundays with Sean this weekend. So if you're local to Virginia and you're not signed up, why? come hang out with us. The booking link for that is also in my link tree on Instagram. You can also get to it through my website, through the Sean's Couture Cuties as well. Put that QR code up now. Let me put that up. There you go. So there's the QR code to Sean'sCoutureCuties.com. That'll take you there if you need posing, if you need a suit, if you need hair and makeup, whatever you need. This QR code right here will take you there. I think that's it for tonight. Any other questions you guys have? If not, I'm gonna let y'all go. We have a busy weekend ahead, and then we'll get on live on Tuesday. But then, like I said, we'll be in Tampa from that point on. I might try to get on live on Wednesday night too from Tampa. I might try that. Depends on how the Wi-Fi is at the hotel. If I can, I will. I'll let you guys know. Obviously, just pay attention to my Insta stories and things like that, and I'll let you know if I'm able to get on live. But I'm going to get a bunch of interviews. I've already got a bunch of those lined up. I'm going to do Spotify from the venue, so be paying attention. So that's going to be fun. I'm going to do some YouTube videos and things like that too. So we got a lot of stuff lined up for the weekend, so it's going to be fun. All right. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Thanks for chatting with me this evening, and we'll be back again on Tuesday, and I'll see you this Sunday if you're coming to Sundays with Sean. All right. Or I'll see you at the show on Saturday too. Okay. Good night.